Okay, in this video we're checking out this PDB and LED light kit from HGLRC, and this is a special kit. You can get the PDB by itself, or you can get the PDB with one LED strip here which has 6 LEDs on it, or you can get the kit with 4 total LEDs, as you can see here. So it comes in a variety of different packages. You can check the product link and you can select the kit that you want to get. The PDB, if you just get that by itself, of course, will come with a capacitor and an XD60 adapter that you have to solder on together yourself, and then also comes with a wiring loom, so that if you want to plug that into your flight controller, it does come with one of those micro connectors here. And you can also use the solder pads underneath here. I'll talk about that here in a second. Basically, this is a PDB where your individual ECs are going to connect off here on the side or on the corners for the arms. I'll show you a setup that I already did, and then these are the nylon standoffs that are included if you want to mount that to your frame. But the reason that you have a special PDB here for this LED setup here is that as you add a lot more LEDs, it's going to draw more current, so you're going to need voltage regulators that are going to be able to handle that current. So you can see here on this board you got 3 really large voltage regulators. You got a current sensor here. I think you have some 5 volt and 12 volt regulators here, and I'm not 100% sure which ones are which, but you can see there's 3 sets of each here. And you see there's outputs here on the side of the board for 12 volts and 5 volts, and that is actually to go to your other types of components. You have 12 volts here, 5 volts there, a current sensor pad there, also 12 volts here, 5 volts there. So there's lots of places to tap into the power here. Now if you just want to use the power for the LEDs, these here are the pads that you're going to use, or you can use the connectors. And these connectors here will output 5 volts to the LED strips. Now the signal wires are all connected together. So you can see right here, this little S here stands for signal, and that will power basically all the LEDs that you're going to plug into here, but they're all connected together. So when you go into your Betaflight configurator for the LED setup, you're basically just going to be setting up one strip of 6, and that's going to be duplicated 4 more times for each of the plugs that you're going to have here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to want to solder a wire from here, actually any of these that are labeled S, to your flight controller, to the LED pad on your flight controller, and that's actually going to be sending the programming signals to the LEDs, but they're not individually controlled, so you're not actually having 4 times 6, 24 LEDs. You're actually controlling 6 of them, and then that pattern or whatever you're programming in that is going to be duplicated on each of the strips of LEDs, basically duplicated 4 times. Okay, so as for your other connections, you got your ESC connections here on the ends. So you got your negative and positive for the ESC, and then the signal wire here. So this one here is signal 1 for motor 1, motor 2, and then motor 3 over here, and motor 4. So you're probably going to want the orientation to be where the regulators are facing up and top, or you could obviously rewire it wherever way you want. But then the outputs are going to come out, so if signal 1 is here, that output's going to come out over here on this little wiring loom that you're going to plug in right here, and that's going to go to your flight controller. Now, of course, you could use the solder pads as well. So all of the solder pads can correspond to the pinouts on this micro connector here. So you have your voltage in and negative. That's your VBAT. Your signal 1, 2, 3, 4. They're your 4 motor signal wires. TX is your, I think that's the ESC telemetry. If you're going to use 32-bit ESCs, you're going to solder everything to that. And then this is your current sensor, which is going to be this right here. So those are all the connections that you're going to be making. Now, if you if you end up using these LEDs, of course you don't have to use these LEDs, but if you do get this in the package, you can see here they're labeled in and out. So you be plugging in the plug here that goes to the PDB, and then these plugs are also included. And you want to make sure that the order of the wires is correct. So you have ground, 5 volts, and their signal. And you want to make sure that none of these are swapped. I think on one of mine it was swapped. I did check it. But then you want to double check yours that the wires are ordered in the correct order. If you have, like, for example, the black and the red flipped like I did, for example, then these won't light up. So just be aware of that. And then the same will be the case on the other side as well. And those should correspond to what you see here. So you want the yellow to be on top so you can see the signal, and then you have your positive in the middle, and then the ground, and then you're just going to plug in all four of them like that. Of course, you could just use the solder pads here. You don't have to use these connectors if you don't want to. Solder on some wires here, solder on the wires there, and it's exactly the same. There's continuity there, so it doesn't matter if you use the plug or if you use the solder pads, they'll work the same way either way. Okay, so in terms of the wiring, if you just use the plugs to go to the LEDs, then of course everything just plug and play, and it should look like this. And then you have your wiring that goes to your flight controller. The only thing that you're going to need to solder is a wire, and it's not included in the kit, and something that they have documented, and the website's on a very tiny little image. But you need a wire that goes here that basically will send the programs to the LEDs, to one of the signal pads, and that's got to go to your flight controller on the LED pad. Otherwise, you can't. None of the programming signals will work on the LEDs. I don't think they'll even light up if that's not actually wired up correctly. Okay, so here I have another set of PDB and ESCs here that are already wired up here. I already just finished that up, and so you can see the plugs here on the PDB on the bottom, and then the LEDs are on the bottom of the arms here. You can see the other side of the plug here. Just have the wires twisted up, and their wires are just going underneath the flight controller. And then I think the only thing that you need to be aware of is the LED pad on my flight controller right there. This little blue wire goes to the signal pad on the underside of the PDB that I mentioned earlier. You need to solder that up to your flight controller to get the programming to work to the LEDs. But that's pretty much it for the connections. And of course, like for the rest of this stuff here, it's pretty, you have your signal wire for your ESC, and you have your negative and your positive for the ESC. And then I have on my setup here, these are 35 amp ESCs from HGLRC as well. So I'm just going to be using this for the demo to show you that the LEDs are working. Let me just go ahead and plug this in. I'll show you that that they actually are working here on the bench, and then I'll do a little flight demo a little later in the video. So go ahead and plug that in. Now I'm going to turn off the lights here so that you can see this a little better. So you can see here that they're all doing the same thing, because there's only one signal wire sending programs to, or sending the program to the LEDs. And I have basically all of them the same, the red color, and then I'm using the Larson scanner option so that you're seeing the light go back and forth, but they're all basically, all the LEDs, all four of them are doing the exact same thing, because there's only one signal wire going to all four LEDs. Of course, you could change the program in the LED tab on Betaflight Configurator. You can change the colors. You can do all kinds of things, of course. Just keep in mind that you're just programming a row of 6 LEDs that are going to be duplicated 4 times on each arm. Beyond that, I'm not that much of an expert in terms of LED programming. There's obviously a lot of things you can do there, so I would consult other videos in terms of doing some fancy blinking or mode change or whatever that goes on in the LED tab. I'm not a big expert in that one. I just know how to do a few things here. But if you wanted to do some fancy flashing or some special patterns of colors, whatever, you'll probably have to consult some other videos to understand how to do that kind of programming on these LED strips here. Anyway, so I'm just going to do a little line of sight flight with this. Obviously, flying this FPV is kind of pointless, because the whole point of the video is to show you these LEDs, and you won't be able to see that unless someone's chasing me FPV, and I don't have anyone to do that for me. So I'm just going to fly line of sight, and you'll get to see how this looks in the air. It'll be probably early evening. Probably won't do this at night, but it'll be like an early evening flight, so you get an idea what this looks like in the air line of sight. So I'll take you to that section of the video now. Okay, so hopefully this will show up on camera. You see it up close right here. Alright, so now you can see it in the air. Shows a pretty good. Sun's almost going down, so I'm not sure if it's bright enough. I can see it line of sight. I can imagine it would look pretty cool looking, chasing this behind via an FPV camera.